What are some of the things that come to your mind when you think about Apple's MacBook line of laptops? Well, if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking about extreme gaming performance, some liquid cooling, overclocking, psychokinesis, quantum computing, and so on. Well, today we're going to put that to the test with our torture device of choice, Apple's new and shiny 15-inch MacBook Air. Now, this exact specimen is actually the entry-level 15-inch 2023 M2 MacBook Air. And this baby packs a punch. It comes with the new Apple M2 chip that has an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. This exact model also comes with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of SSD storage. Now, if you look at Apple's marketing materials, you're also going to find a whole bunch of marketing jargon like neural engines and quantum levitation and like teleportation machines and so on. But yeah, as you can imagine, this 11.5mm gaming monster actually packs a whole bunch of poop internals, including but not limited to 8 gigs of soldered RAM and 256 gigs of soldered on SSD. Now, what that means for you is that, for example, if in 3 years you want to upgrade the RAM because 8 gigs was the RAM option of choice in 1756, well, you're stuck with the 8 gigs because it's soldered onto the board, and you're gonna have to take your MacBook to a magician in order to unsolder the existing RAM. I'm not even sure if that's possible. And upgrade, again, I'm not even sure if that's possible. During the event that Apple introduced this model of MacBook Air, they also talked about 2 new things that in their minds probably would appeal to Mac gamers. Whoever they are. But it's actually something called a Game Porting Toolkit, which is supposed to translate Windows API and DirectX calls to Metal and Apple API calls, which would make it easier for developers to port Windows games to Mac OS. But at the moment, it's kind of a hassle to get like any game working using this method. If you want to see a tutorial on this, let me know in the comments below and I'll do a separate video. But the second thing Apple introduced is something called a game mode, which kind of sounds like something your grandparents would use to defragment their MacBooks to make Facebook scroll smoother. I think it's something that basically prioritizes the running game for the CPU and the GPU, but it only works whenever the game is in full screen mode. I'll show you in a second. But yeah, with all the marketing lollygagging out of the way, I think we can get to the more interesting part of the video finally and try some games on the new MacBook Air with the M2 chip and the 15-inch screen. But for this video, I actually decided to go with Steam's macOS supported library, which actually kind of sounds like a scam. And keep in mind that we're working with the entry-level MacBook Air, which has 256 gigs of storage, whereas most of the top 5 games on Steam actually take up more than 100 gigs. Alright, so as you can see, we have our MacBook and we are gonna just jump into some CSGO action. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, because this is a Mac, in order to get like an FPS overlay, you have to go into your terminal, paste this command, execute it, exit out of the terminal, and then only launch a game, and then hopefully the overlay should work. Alright, so as you can see, CSGO has very optimistically configured itself into high settings. Most of the stuff is on high. I can't actually get an FPS overlay to work, so we're just gonna have to judge it by looking at the gameplay. Alright, so as you can see, we're running on not the full resolution, but I think it defaults itself to like half of the monitor's resolution. We're playing with bots here, so the performance, because they are bots, gonna be better. As you can see, it's kind of like swimming through butter, but I wouldn't say that this is like the worst experience, considering like most of the settings are on high. Yeah, I think it's pretty playable, I'd say. I mean, I wouldn't call this like my gaming option of choice for CSGO, but yeah, as I said, like you can't get, I think it's because of CSGO, you can't get like any overlays running because I've enabled the metal overlay from Apple and it's not showing up. As you can see, sometimes you're gonna see some stutter, but yeah, I'd say it's not bad. It's definitely usable. If you're looking to be like more competitive, you can lower the settings as well. If you have like nothing better to do, I guess this works. But yeah, with this humiliating defeat, let's jump into the next game. Alright, so jumping into some Dying Light action. As you can see, we're running on 1920 by 1200 resolution. Pretty much everything is on low. We have the film grain effect and the chromatic aberration effect turned on. And the texture size is medium. So as you can see on the top, we also have the Apple's metal performance metrics overlay. So you're gonna be able to see the FPS when we get into the game. Alright, so this is kind of weird. As you can see, the whole game is kind of glitched out. I'm not sure why though. Maybe that's because of the performance kind of overlay that we have going on. But yeah, as you can see, we're getting like pretty much 30 to 40 FPS at best. Like we're not doing like any kind of like action, and also we're getting all kinds of weird glitches. So I'm just gonna try to turn off the overlay and we'll see if the artifacts go away. Alright, it worked. Turning off the overlay seems to have cured the insufferable artifacts. So yeah, let's get into some action and chop off some zombies. As you can see, like I think it's pretty much in line with what the overlay was showing, like 30 to 40 FPS, maybe sometimes a bit less. But yeah, as you can see, like when you're running across the city, I guess when it has to load some like a whole bunch of textures, it gets kind of choppy and it kind of messes with the immersion a bit. But I wouldn't call this unplayable, honestly. And if this is your only device that you have available, like an M1 MacBook Air or like an older MacBook Pro, I think you can give this a shot. It seems like because of how like the stutters occur whenever something new has to load, I think it's because of the RAM. So maybe if you try this with like the 16 gig version, it could be better. But yeah, with that, I think we can say that Dying Light, it works. Like it's not horrible, so yeah, give it a shot. Alright, so jumping into some No Man's Sky action. As you can see, we're running at 1710 by 1107 resolution, which is kind of expected from Apple. We're running on the standard preset, which is like the lowest. And we have something pretty interesting here, Metal FX anti-aliasing, which is something new. And I guess it's because No Man's Sky is kind of supported on Apple hardware, better supported than most games. So yeah, let's jump into it. As you can see, here we are in No Man's Sky. As you can see, we also have the overlay over here, which is the Metal overlay from Apple. And basically shows you the FPS, the GPU, memory load, etc. I guess what we're interested in mostly is the FPS. Because we have a 30 FPS cap, we're pretty much sitting at 30, which is I guess good. And I'll try changing the settings to like a bit higher and we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, like overall, you can run around, you can jump around, like jetpack around. And with the laser effects and all that. Alright, so I'm gonna try actually raising the FPS cap a little bit, I think. Let's try raising it to like 60 and we'll see what happens. Alright, as you can see, I am shocked because this works. Yeah, you can see like the stutters and stuff, which could be because of RAM. Let's try blasting something with the laser. Like as you can see, like even when there are some special effects going on, it works. So yeah, as you can see with the FPS cap lifted, it's not perfect, but it works. Alright, so now I've turned off VSync completely. I wouldn't say that this is perfect though. All right, good.
Bruh.
As you can see, the game crashed. So yeah, I think with that, it's kind of safe to say we need to move on to the next game, which is Metro 2033 Redux. Let's go. All right, so as you can see, for Metro, we have low quality, no anti-aliasing, and the motion blur and VSync are off. And as you can see, we've also lost the performance overlay, most probably because the game runs on OpenGL. And I'm just gonna try to enable the Steam FPS overlay. Alright, so as you can see, we're in the game, and I've pretty much tried enabling every single FPS counter available, and we've got nothing. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Let's get into some action and see if the performance drops. I think it's not that bad, as you can see. Well, I mean, we're running on the lowest possible settings, but still. The resolution isn't too low, like you're not actually counting pixels here. So yeah, as you can see when you're looking around, I would say it's fine, it's playable. In the open environments over here, no, I think it's about 30 frames per second going on over here. But we have no way to confirm that because all the overlays refuse to work on this. So yeah, it's not that bad. I guess you can give this a shot as well. Alright, so lastly, jumping into Rust. As you can see, it's kind of a mix between like low and medium with some image effects going on as well.
One eternity later.
Alright, so as you can see, not even several eons have passed and Rust has finally loaded. It is somehow using 14 gigs of RAM on a MacBook that has 8 gigs of RAM. And as you can see, we are hovering at around 17 FPS, which, as you can see, it's going great. Whenever you move the mouse, you kind of have to wait. You know, you have time between mouse movements to take your time and enjoy your life. As you can see, you can decide for yourself whether this is playable or not. We are running at full resolution though, so I'm just gonna drop that a bit. Alright, so that seems to have helped a little bit. Let's see, whenever you're moving the mouse, like apart from the game's motion blur, you also get like Vaseline in the eyes effect, as and it's kind of funny how we're still like sitting at 14 gigs of RAM over here. But yeah, I guess if you have like very low standards, sure, this is playable, why not? As you can see, like textures seem to be like from 1759, although when you get closer to them it gets better. So let's try messing with the settings a bit and lower it to the lowest possible. Alright, so after lowering pretty much every setting imaginable to like the lowest possible, we're getting somewhat better results. We're getting like closer to 30 FPS. Again, I wouldn't call this playable. Like, there's a huge amount of stutter going on. Oh yeah, we're getting like 30 plus FPS over here. But again, with like huge amounts of stutter. I think this could be because of the RAM issue, because we're like pretty much double the hardware limit, so I'm not sure how that works. And I wouldn't really call it playable, so yeah. Now I think I also have to mention this of how hot this MacBook gets when gaming. Like you can barely touch the top half of the computer, which probably makes sense considering that the gaming market of this device, according to Apple, would be limited to like Angry Birds from the App Store. Now, one more thing I actually want to mention is that whenever I was trying to connect my Razer Basilisk Hyperspeed to this MacBook over Bluetooth, it works in a very weird way. The mouse pointer actually gets pretty choppy and slow, so it kind of feels like you're dragging it through like concrete. And in the 2.4 GHz mode, like using the dongle, it just refuses to connect to the MacBook. And lastly, because this is a Mac and what we're doing, I guess, can be technically categorized as gaming, you pretty much face issues with every single game you try to run. So with CSGO, when you run it for the first time, you actually don't see the apply settings button. So you can't actually change it to full screen, and you have to manually add a command in the Steam's custom command line. With No Man's Sky, whenever you try to press the exit game button, the game just hangs, and then you have to exit out, like force quit using the activity monitor. Metro Redux gives you like GPU warnings whenever you try to run the game, although it works perfectly fine. And Dying Light actually hangs after the cutscene, so you kind of have to guess that you have to press spacebar one more time there. But yeah, I guess it's nothing compared to what a privilege it is to game on a device as sleek as the MacBook. But yeah, with this brilliant piece of consumer advice out of the way, let me know if you want me to try the new game porting toolkit method of actually running Windows games on a MacBook. But yeah, I think that's all for today's Adventures of David. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!